the trim for the obi and tabbards, you can just get on a sewing machine, or you can do this by hand sewing, or you can actually glue it down just like this, whichever you prefer. Go like this though, you can hold this down, and then slowly or fast, however your preference is. Then, as you can see, I just sewn from here to there. Turn this thing over. The side near my thumb looks a lot better than the side near my finger. And that's what you want to do the whole way down for the tabbards and the obi. And this, remember, this step is completely optional. It's just a step to add a little bit more pizzazz to your costume. You don't have to have a trim at all. To make the obi and the tabbards, they are close to, if not the same exact width and length. I pretty much eyeballed it. It's basically a simple rectangle. So all the way down, I just pinned what seems to be a straight line, and I'm going to cut it out. I did the same thing for the tabbards. They should be the same width. The same length, not necessarily, because the size of your waist is not the size over your shoulders, but you can cut accordingly once they are all cut out. So this is the obi, and I'm doing it one layered. It is just one layer obi, but when I did it for the tabbards, I had it folded over so I can cut out two at a time. So be careful when you're cutting, because you can cut once and always measure twice. So this will be done, and I'll show you in a second. To create a hood for your Jedi, what I'm doing is taking a hood from an old cosplay that we had actually done on this channel, and I'm laying it down on this blue fabric. It's kind of hard to see because it's right here. This blue fabric I'm laying it down on, and yes, it is double layered because hoods are 2 layers. So I'm double layering this fabric to get twice the amount when I cut it. Well, if you don't have an old cosplay that you have made, you can use a hoodie, a coat hood, but just lay it down, like you take your coat and position the hood at the edge of the fabric, the end of the hood, and then put the hood, spread it out on flat. So like the seam is at the top, spread it flat across the fabric. What I'm going to do is pin all around the outline of the hood, excuse me, and I'm going to put the cosplay off to the side, and then I have a rough estimate of what I want my hood to look like, and then you can cut it up and refine it later. But sometimes it's tricky to make a hood, so use what you already have to your advantage by using hoodies and coats and what other things that are already made that you can lay out on your fabric and mark it out and cut it. Now, once you have everything sewn together, this is still flipped inside out, so the seams are still up and all the threads are still showing. But I have laid out the tunic and the hood. This is the hood. Like I had said, it is still inside out, so all the rough edges are still outwards, while the good edges are still on the inside. But what you're going to want to do to attach the hood is to leave them both inside out. So when you attach the hood, then you flip everything inside out. So basically right side out. All the bad seams are hidden. So you're going to want to lay out your tunic. So here's the neck hole. I laid it out perfectly flat. And then you're going to want to, I need 2 hands for this, so I'll be right back. So you lay out your hood like this, and it's going to be bunched up because the way it was stitched, but eyeball it to about the middle of the back of the neck. And then what you're going to want to do is pin that there first. And then what you can do is slowly pin it to the shoulders. And then what you would do is wear it and then estimate how much of this you need to cut off, if any. So first, like I had said, pin all along the shoulders, starting from the middle and then going outwards, making sure the fabric is all in the right position and flat and the bad seams are facing outwards. So after you pin the shoulder or the back part down, you can wear it and then carefully pin the actual shoulders down just a little bit, because you don't want to interfere with this part of the tunic that crosses over in the front. So just a little bit stretching over your right and left shoulders. Basically just off the shoulder, no farther than that, like right off the collarbone kinda. I mean, you can go farther if you want, but personally that's where I'd prefer mine to go. And then you could either sew this down first or cut this, because we're gonna have to trim this excess off. So what I'm probably going to do is sew it down first and then trim the excess off to blend it with the rest of the hood, because it's just kind of like a weird flap hanging off. But I'm going to go and sew this line down now. So now the hood is sewn on and I cut some of the slack off. So what I'm probably going to do is either sew down a little bit of it with a little bit of room just for the hood to go up and down, or just sew the whole thing down, or you could just leave it go, maybe even just add it to the weathering, because what I did was when I cut the slack off, I didn't really care too much for straight edges because my costume is going to be weathered, so I just cut them kind of at my own leisure, like that giant gash right there. So that is basically the end of the hood. You're able to do or finish it up however you like, but this is the way that I made mine. The last thing for the tunic would not only be to turn it inside out and have all the good edges on the outside, but it would be to add the ties so you can wear this tunic properly. So once you flip it inside out and the tunic is flat like this, the way I have it is the left goes over the right. So the right would come across like so. It just folds over the front of your chest. And so if you've ever seen a karate gi before, they have ties right like there, and then of course on the corresponding spot on the other side, and then they would also have one over here in this corner, and then on the back side on this corner. So whenever they meet, you're able to tie them together, and then it gives the illusion, or the shape really, of the Jedi robes. So you could add ties or Velcro or whatever you really want, but it's up to you and how you want to keep this closed. But what I'm going to be doing is adding the ties to the corners. Basically, to make the ties, you could literally just take scrap fabric, leather, string, shoestring, rope, whatever you want, cut a strip, like not that big, just like something like this would work perfectly fine. And then you would just sew it down. So say I'm going to be adding it to this corner right now. So you would just, whichever direction you would just sew it like pretty much wherever in the corner you would prefer it, and then it would just meet up with the other one, and you can tie a bow or a knot of some sorts, but you want to give it some room in case you either someone else wears it and they need different sizes for smaller or bigger robes, because they could be similar size but maybe a different weight, maybe bigger in some way or smaller. So it's just good all around to have a long string sewn on, and same thing on the other side, and then the same thing on the inside of this, and then the corresponding side. But like I said, you're going to want to do that whenever this thing is flipped inside out, and all these edges are the good edges that are shown on the outside, and then you can tie it however you like.